Welcome to Women of Worth Worldwide. We are a ministry of NewLife Behavior International. We are women teaching women Bible-based lessons. And today our teacher is Mindy. Welcome, Mindy.
Hi, it's so good to be here with everybody.
And we're really glad you are with us. Thanks. You have a lot of energy, and I know that everyone will enjoy following along with this lesson. Today we'll be talking about parental and family influences from Dr. H.M. Motsinger's book, A Sense of Self. In that book, Dr. Motsinger says, as young children, we are very dependent on and attached to our family. When given a choice, children will probably choose to stay in a dysfunctional family that they are attached to rather than move to a healthy family. So in this lesson, we'll find out why we feel this way about our parents and family. We'll discuss how the family works as a system. And so I look forward to hearing as you describe what a system is.
So before we get going on things, I always like to define terms, because that way we all are on the same page and we know what we're talking about. So what is a system? Well, if you look at an automobile, you'll see all different parts working together, and then you'll see the engine. And the engine is the system that makes the automobile work. But the engine, apart from itself, isn't going to do anything. But you put it together with all the different parts of the car, and you get a car that's working. In sports, you see the same thing. You have a team made of a bunch of individual players that come together to make this team that can win a game. That team is considered a system. It's not just one player playing a game, it's the whole team coming together as a system to play a game. The family, it works in the same way. It's got different members coming together as one group. So if we look at our Bible at 1 Corinthians chapter 12, it says, for just as the body is one and has many members, all the members of the body, though many, are one body. So it is with Christ. For in one spirit we are all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one spirit. So we see all these different nationalities and these different groups coming together as one, as a church, as a system. Then we go to Romans chapter 12, and it's kind of a lengthy section. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it kind of describes this a little more. This is Romans chapter 12, and it's verses 4 through 13. For as is one body, we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function. So we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members one to another. Having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. So we see that each person has different things that help bring the system together to work.
Very good. Thank you so much for that great definition. So now let's pivot over to talk about the family. How does a family operate as a system?
So when something is working, when a system is working correctly, it's called a functioning system because it's functioning. When it's not working correctly, it's a dysfunctional system. And we all know in a perfect world, everything would function. But we don't live in a perfect world. So there is some dysfunction there. If you continue with Paul's analogy of the body, we look at our bodies and we see that one thing corresponds with another. So I have 4 daughters. My number 2 daughter was sick years ago, and she said her back was hurting, and it hurt to go to the restroom. And so I thought that's a kidney infection. You know, your kidneys are kind of placed in the back, and they kind of start aching when they're not working right. So we do all natural remedies. We used essential oils, and I was oiling her for her kidneys, and after 2 weeks, nothing was getting any better. And I couldn't understand why, her kidneys weren't getting better. And so I did some research and I learned that the thyroid actually is connected to the functioning of the kidneys. So I treated her thyroid, and all of a sudden her kidneys were working again, and she felt better. So in our bodies, we have things that seem so far away from each other, but they still come together and they work together. The family's the same way. We all kind of come together and mesh and bring each other up and build each other. A family, it's a social system. It's not a body system, but it's social. Different members of the family kind of come together and have different roles that make the system work properly. You know, when you communicate together and things kind of go up and down and we ebb and flow, and that's how the system can function.
Good. So what do family rules have to do with helping a child feel emotionally secure so that system can continue to work properly?
Well, so my number 2 daughter, the girl with the kidney problem, she doesn't really like to play games very well. I mean, she doesn't like sports. She's not into board games. And I think the biggest reason why is because people don't explain the rules. And so when she goes into playing these games, she begins to have some anxiety and a little nervousness about what the game is going to be about and how do you win the game and what if I do something wrong, you know? The family is like that too. The kids need to know what to be expected so that they don't have that kind of anxiety. In our family, we have 2 rules. And I know that seems really small because that's a really small number for that amount of kids. But our 2 rules are love others and don't lie. And when you start boiling things down, everything depends on those 2 rules. When they were little, you know, there was a lot of hitting, there was a lot of taking of toys, and she said this, and she touched me, and I would always go and I would sit them down and we would talk about loving each other. And one of my favorite stories to tell about that was always back in the Old Testament with Joseph, and when his brothers sold him into slavery. And they stuck him in a pit, and then they sold him off. And I would always ask him, well, how did Joseph treat his brothers? Was he mean to them the next time he saw them? And they would say, no, he gave them food. And I'm like, yeah, he was kind and loving. And then we would tell stories about Jesus and how Jesus is kind and loving to all that he met. And so as they get older, things kind of change. It's not hitting anymore. It's not taking of toys. The problems get bigger. And so then we kind of add in this other one of love God, love others, love God, and don't lie. And because they have these 3 rules, they know which path to take.
Okay, very good. So tell us about the importance of healthy communications in the family and the effect that healthy communications has on the children.
So you're going to communicate one way or another. Either it's going to be verbal communication or it's going to be nonverbal communication. I have always been told that you can tell how I am feeling by my facial expressions. Growing up as a teenager, I apparently rolled my eyes a lot, and I didn't know I was doing it. And I used to be a sign language interpreter, and my facial expression was like one of my best gifts. But the best way to communicate isn't necessarily by body language, but by verbal communication. Before my oldest daughter was born, I had made a promise to myself that I was always going to listen to what she said. Even if it was really insignificant to me, even if I really didn't care, I was going to listen. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. because my oldest daughter can talk. But I would listen to everything. And as I got more kids in, that got a lot harder, but I still try to listen to everything. And I think it's kind of paid off because now she knows, well, they all know that they can come to me for anything, and I'm going to listen. She'll come to me and her dad about struggles during her day, about friendship problems, even about some of the really heavy, big questions. She's not afraid to come talk to us about faith. She's not afraid to come talk to us about peer pressure. We just always decided that we were going to have healthy communication. And that allows each individual child to come and share their fears, share their struggles, share their joys. And I think that's very important for us to be able to verbally communicate.
That sounds like a really healthy situation that you have created. I really appreciate that. So thanks for that great example. Dr. Motsinger talks about how family subsystems and some of the Bible verses that teach what is acceptable and not acceptable within these subsystems. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Well, so it kind of goes back to roles and how each individual person helps bring the system together. You've got the husband, you've got the wife, and you've got the children. In other subsystems, you can have, the males and the females. But within each subsystem, there's rules and regulations and boundaries, and it all sounds really complex. But really, it's like a game. You've got the coach who's going to tell you how to play this game. And then you've got the team players and all the different things that they have to do in each game. And, one player, I'm a big football fan. And so one of the biggest players for football is the quarterback, the guy who throws the ball. You have to be able to throw the ball to get the ball down the field. And so the coach, you have the head coach, then you have the offensive coaches and the defensive coaches and the players. And so everybody kind of has this tier system. And if you were to break all that down, it wouldn't work. So how does that relate to the family? Well, the husband and wife are the ones who regulate the rules, who bring out that communication, who allow the children to become individualistic as you help mold and shape them and help them grow. If the children take that place of being the leader, it doesn't work. It would be like the players trying to be a coach and telling the team how to play. And so within all of these things, there's kind of some boundaries. And Leviticus chapter 18 kind of brings in some of these boundaries. Boil it down. Men, dads, don't need to see little girls without their clothes on. Women shouldn't see little boys without their clothes on. Now, I understand, you've got the mom and the dad, and mom does a lot of the nurturing and those kinds of things. But for our family, with 4 girls, we always decided that my husband had just decided that I was going to be the one to give the girls baths. Not that he couldn't, and not that he didn't whenever I wasn't available, but he just felt it was more prudent for me to do it. That boundary was always established. Now, as the kids got older, when they're little, they're kind of toddling around in their diapers and they're running around in their towels and they're super cute. And then they kind of get older and they get to that level where probably shouldn't be doing that anymore. So you have to have those discussions. But that's where the communication comes in, because that's what the family is all about. Bringing everybody together and discussing things and allowing each individual child to be who they are, but learning and growing and helping them along the way.
Very good. Thank you, Mindy, for helping us look at this lesson about parental influences and how children are nurtured in a family system. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We loved having you. If any of you who are watching have a question about this lesson or about how to become a Christian, please feel free to send us an email at nlbiministry@gmail.com. nlbiministry@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you next time.